All morning, it seems we've been looking into history and bouncing back out into today's society and trying to find the happy medium and what we're doing, how art visually impacts you and how it can change how you feel and actually be part of cultural development. I am considered a social practice artist, and that is defined as someone who actually uses art for a means of intervention and to establish some dialogue for a particular agenda. And in my case, since I speak quite a bit on art and spirituality, it's to go into cultures where the religious tension may be, and an art project would maybe change some of that tension, lower the boundaries, have people just having fun together without an agenda from the art, but then an umbrella agenda over that by whoever I'm partnering with. So I've been commissioned around the world to go into various cultures to do this. And as I said, I try to keep it focused on the areas where there's been religious tension. So I call it kind of an ad hoc art because you really are just dumped into a culture with some kind of idea of what an art project may look like. And then you just allow the spirit to move you and to have it develop within the culture. So I've taken some notes of what everybody was talking about. And I particularly resonated with Sam's conversation. Where is he? He's not in the room today right now. Okay, Sam used some words that worked really well for what I do. He said proximity of relationships. And that's very much what happens when you're kind of dropped into a culture. The proximity of what's happening, what kind of relationships develop from that. He also talked about engagement versus passive reception. So immersive art is not actually a reaction, it's a real happening. Something's happening in the moment. It's situational. That was another word that he used that I liked. It's also an encounter with this vulnerability, room for error, and just mutual edification is the end result. So that's what I do, and that's what I've taught through Colorado State University in a master's program for art leaders to know how to go into cultures and to use art as a tool to advance culture based on what their position is. I've taken students to India to work with NGOs there, to Mexico to work with NGOs there, so that the agenda comes from the NGO, but the artists are creating the environment for the agenda to proceed. So that's who I am. This is a picture of me in Spain when that country was looking at dividing and that neighborhood was suffering conversations. People were hanging protest signs in their windows. And I was there on an artist residency and asked to do something in the park to engage the community to come out of their homes and actually talk to each other. And I have found everywhere I've been, no matter what country I'm in, the children are the first to step into the art project because they have that childlike spirit. And this was a land art piece that we did that's about 9 foot by 12 foot. This was in Olat, so it's in the mountains, but the struggle was between Barcelona and Madrid. And this was a few years ago. Okay, so social practice art too was not considered a college taught art for a very long time. As a matter of fact, I got my degrees later in life. And when I was at the San Francisco Art Institute for my master's there, they called it new genres. So the artists out there in the audience, that means they don't know what it is, but it's something new, But soon after, when I started teaching at the college level, I realized this is a necessity to actually develop a program to teach people that art has this efficacy to do something with cultural evolution. So now it is a major in many areas. So for decades, I have traveled the globe and immersed myself in various cultures with art projects that foster dialogue and kinship. It's an instigator, actually, for dialogue. So today I'm going to share my most recent experience. In October of 2024, I was in Bosnia, in Sarajevo, Bosnia, Herzegovina. I belong to an international art collective that travels the globe and does art exhibitions based on social justice. So we made a trip to Sarajevo. This is not the first time that the collective had been there, but we were invited to put up an exhibition in Tito's bunker. And the exhibition title was called Shelter. Now, this collective that I belong to, we also do what they call social sculptures, which is very the same as the social practice artist making a 3D encounter. So in Sarajevo, Bosnia has this incredible history of being coexisting with multiple religious diversity. Muslims, Christians, and a small Jewish community all living together in the same city where mosques, churches, and synagogues share neighborhoods, earning the title of Jerusalem of Europe or Jerusalem of the Balkans. Koinonia on the Rocks was the title of my project, and I'll be addressing that as a theme for Who is My Neighbor. I'll be sharing images and testimony from a social sculpture art project that I conducted at Birch University in Sarajevo. The essential meaning of koinonia embraces the concept of joint participation, sharing, and intimacy. The term social sculpture, coined by Joseph Beuys in the 20th century, describes an art form where anyone and everyone is an artist within a multidisciplinary community engagement that promotes neighborly transformation within a culture. Social sculpture aspires to heal society through art that is spiritual and holistic. I heard recently from an author that coexistence is defined as dialogues of mutual edification, and the key word being edification. So this is the start of the project. Indigenous rocks from the area were collected, students from Birch University gathered, and they began the project right away. I had explained to them that they were to draw symbols of their faith or belief systems on the rocks using the paint pens that I provided. They joined in with enthusiasm and engaged right away. They were glad to be out of the classroom. Theological discourse on religious iconography shapes contemporary responses to ethical dilemmas of our time. Interfaith artistic collaborations strengthen community hospitality and neighborliness, breaking boundaries and opening channels for meaningful conversations and mutual edification. When the rocks were completed, the students posed with them and explained their designs. Being as there were many Muslims, the moon and star symbol was prevalent, although not an official religious symbol of Islam. It does represent the divine guidance as mentioned in the Quran and represents the unity of time and spirituality, reminding Muslims of the importance of aligning their lives with the divine will and the eternal nature of Allah's guidance. It also marks the beginning and end of months in the lunar calendar, which dictates the timing of important observances like Ramadan. One of the students on your right made this statement as her testimony. The workshop for me was an amazing opportunity to express my thoughts and opinions on life in Bosnia as a hijabi student. I showcased symbols from both my country and my religion. It was fun to see what my colleagues came up with and to spend quality time with them. Fun is a key aspect of these kind of gatherings too. You again become more childlike, you're more vulnerable, your protected guards and walls are down and dialogue surfaces much more easily. Stars were also popular, holding a special place in Christianity and Judaism as a symbol of divine guidance, revelation, and such as the Star of Bethlehem. Whether in Christianity or Islam, stars serve as a reminder of divine promises, guidance, and the infinite possibilities that lie ahead of those who have faith. One of the students' comments here was, "We didn't expect rock painting to bring us together, but it did. It gave us a chance to laugh, to chill, and to hear everyone's perspective on life." A few students turned to astronomy as a spiritual realm of the heavens that reveals the delicate balance between the interconnectedness of the cosmos and the grounding concept as a grounding concept. The middle student added a dragon, whom she said represented strength and wisdom for personal growth, seeking knowledge. 3 of the Muslim boys spoke about brotherhood as a spiritual fellowship of believers committed to unity and mutual support to stand together in times of hardship. In Islam, brotherhood is seen as a bond that goes beyond blood relations. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The believers in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy are just like one body. When one of the limbs suffer, the whole body responds to it with wakefulness and fever." These boys shared how that felt to them among their little clique, this kind of bonding that they had. The statement was also discussed from a Christian perspective with 1 Corinthians 12:12-27, which compares the body of Christ, the church, to a human body with many parts, each with a different function. These verses emphasize that all believers are part of one body, and despite the differences, they work together. So a great discussion followed that concept in this group about the dependency on each other, the vulnerability to support and edify one another. About 7% of the world's population is atheist. And we did have one in our group, and she said she just lived one day at a time without faith in any higher order, but that the workshop reminded her that symbols can shape one's perception of life. Finally, on another note of unity, symbols of the heart, spirals, and the tree of life brought us full circle towards harmony with statements like, this is student statements, "The heart knows the way, and you just have to trust it." Spirals show how life goes on to eternity, and we quietly travel through life together. The tree of life represents eternal life, immortality, and the connection between heaven and earth for many faiths. After the students shared their rocks and statements, they were asked to go out on campus and create a work of art that included all of the rocks. Public art installations in a designated area fosters neighborly connections, promotes solidarity, and invites visitors to stop by and reflect on the art. From a city made of stone and symbols, this art project felt natural to the students. One of the final statements from a student was, "Through painting on stones, we explored that many ways faith can take shape in art. I was reminded that uncertainty isn't something to fear. It is part of the beauty that gives life meaning." The students chose to make a small spiral in the lawn on the campus in the center of the student center area. They were basing it on the golden mean, or the divine proportions, and to create a spiral. When art serves as a social connection, we are all neighbors, regardless of our personalities and beliefs. Sharing what we use in common instead of our differences. Coexistence defined as dialogues of mutual edification. So even though this was a very small project, large in the sense of gathering, spending time, talking, making art, and then going out and creating a smaller piece into the area, it had a larger impact. The collective that I belong to is in Sarajevo right now. That was a decision I had to make, whether I was going to be here or go back there, where the students are still talking about this simple little art project. So sometimes we've looked at these huge, complicated stained glass windows that stay in history for so long, and yet the simplest little footprint in a lawn on a campus, college campus, can also leave that same kind of imprint. So thank you.